Welcome back everyone. So in the last session we learnt about trigonometric ratios and we also learnt how to find out various trigonometric ratio. In this session we are going to focus upon signs of trigonometric ratio. Now what is meant by sign, that is negative or positive. Now let me define how the signs are going to change for trigonometric ratios. So if you, let me just draw a quadrant right over here. These are x and y plane over here, as you can see x and y, and over here this would be minus x or this would be minus y, right. So if I, in the first quadrant, right, this is my what? This is my first quadrant. If I talk about first quadrant, then let's say I have a triangle somewhat like this and I have a theta, right, I have a theta. Now as you can see, if my triangle in first quadrant, then my angle is what? Theta, and right over here I have this is my perpendicular, this is my base, and this is my hypotenuse. So in first quadrant, if I talk about in first quadrant, sin theta, cos theta, tan theta, all of the trigonometric ratios in first quadrant, since P, if I talk about perpendicular, this is positive, this will be positive. Similarly, base will also be positive, and the hypotenuse, this will also be positive, right. If these three are positive in first quadrant, then what I can say, that my all of the ratios, sin theta, cos theta, tan theta, cot theta, sec theta, and cosec theta, since sin theta, what all of these ratios are made up of. Sin theta is what? Sin theta is perpendicular upon hypotenuse. Similarly, cos theta is what? Base upon hypotenuse. This is perpendicular upon base, this is base upon perpendicular, this is hypotenuse upon base, and this is hypotenuse upon perpendicular. Since the sign of all of these are positive, so this will be positive, this will also be positive, this will also be a positive one, this will also be a positive, and over here rest of the two will also be positive. I hope it is making sense to you. Now this is what I was talking about, the first quadrant. Proceeding forward, let's now talk about second quadrant. Now let's say if I have a triangle somewhat like this and I am talking about this theta. Now as you can see in this, if this is my theta, then as you can see in second quadrant, if I talk about in second quadrant, as you can see, my perpendicular, if this is a theta, then obviously perpendicular is positive, and base, in this case base will be what? Negative. Now if I talk about hypotenuse, hypotenuse is what? Hypotenuse is nothing but p square plus b square. So you must be noticing whether whatever the value of p and b, h will always be positive. H will always be positive. So if perpendicular is positive and base is negative and hypotenuse is positive, then which of these value positive, which one of these values will be negative? That would be a interesting case. So as I can see, I have perpendicular upon hypotenuse, perpendicular hypotenuse. So this will be a positive value. But if I talk about base upon hypotenuse, then this will be a negative value. Perpendicular upon base, again this will be a negative value. base upon perpendicular, wherever the base will come, it will be a negative value, negative, and this one will be positive because it is free of base, right? So that is how the signs of my trigonometric ratios defined in second quadrant. I hope it is making complete sense to you. Now proceeding forward to the third quadrant. Let's talk about third quadrant. Now as you can see, if I talk about third quadrant, let's say there is a triangle somewhat like this, and I am talking about this theta right over here. So if this is a theta, again I can see this will be my base and this will be my perpendicular, and in this case both of my base, since base will be what, negative x-axis, and perpendicular will be what, negative y-axis. So both x and y over here, P will be a negative value and base will also be a negative value, right? I will not talk about hypotenuse because in any case it is a positive value, right? So what will be the corresponding values? Let's see. P and B are negative, so obviously this one will be a negative value. B upon H, this will also be a negative. P upon B, negative will be cancelled out, so I will be remaining with a positive value. Similarly this one also a positive value. What about this one? Hypotenuse upon base, this will be what? Hypotenuse upon base will again be result me in negative value and again negative value. I hope it is making complete sense to you, right? This is pretty much easier one, right? Now proceeding forward to the fourth quadrant. Now if I talk about fourth quadrant, then again let's assume one triangle over here and I am talking about this theta. Now if this is a theta, then what I can say, what I can simply just observe that in this case the base will be positive and hypotenuse, the perpendicular, will be negative. So in this case the base is positive and perpendicular will be negative. And if base is positive and perpendicular is negative, so again I am just see sin theta is what, perpendicular upon, and this will be what, a negative value. This will be what, a positive value. This will be negative value. Whenever this P will come, the value will become negative, negative, positive and negative. I hope it is making sense to you. See, this will be perpendicular and then perpendicular and then perpendicular and then perpendicular, right? Right. So I have defined the signs of my trigonometric ratios in all of these four quadrants. I hope it is clear to you. Now let's learn a trick how to remember all of these. Now we are going to learn these signs, how can we memorize them easily. As you can see, we have already obtained sin theta, cos theta, tan theta, cot theta, sec theta and cosec theta, and the signs of them in different quadrants, first, second, third and fourth. Now let's learn a trick to remember them all. So for example, this is my quadrant, this is my coordinate, this is my first coordinate, this is my second quadrant, this is my third quadrant and this is my fourth quadrant, right? Now you need to remember one thing, one short trick sort of. There is a line that is add sugar to coffee, right? So what I am going to use the first letter of this sentence, that is ASTC, and now I am going to place them. This is my A, this is my S, this is my T and this is my C. Now let's understand what is meant by all of these. So A means all positive, A means all positive. That is, in the first quadrant all of these trigonometric ratios will be positive. I hope it is making sense. Now in second quadrant I have written S. What S means is sine and the opposite of sine, the inverse of sine is what? Sine and cosec will be positive. So as you can see, in second quadrant I have sine and cosec is positive, rest all are negative. I hope it is making sense to you. In the third quadrant I have tan, T as in T for tan and cot, the original one and its inverse, tan and cot. So in the third quadrant I have tan and cot, these two values will be positive, rest all will be negative. And finally I have cos and sec. So the cos and the sec, these two values will be positive and rest all will be negative. I hope it is completely clear to you, right? And that is how you are going to remember these. Now let us see what are the application of this. Why are we learning this, right? Now, so let us say you have to find out the value of sine, let's say 135. You have to find out the value of sine 135. And as you can see, if you draw 135, this will lie somewhere in the second quadrant. This is what? This is nothing but sine 90 plus 45. This is sine 90 plus 45. So the value will be of this will be positive. I hope it is making sense to you. Similarly, if you want to calculate the value of, let's say, cosec, let's say 235 degree. So 235, if you just look at 235, so 235 is what? Cosec 180 plus, this is what? 55 degree. 180 plus 55. And as you can see, this value is what? This value is 90 degree, this value is 180 degree, this value is 270 degree. So this value right over here, this will lie somewhere between in the third quadrant only, right? And if it is in third quadrant, and I can see in third quadrant only tan and cot are positive, so this value will be negative. Right now I am don't worrying about what will be the value, right? But I am worried about the signs. What will be the sign of this value? For example, you have to calculate tan of 2 or let's rather 300 degree. Tan of 300 degree. Now as you can see 300 degree, it is what? Tan 270 plus 30, or you can say this is what? Tan 360 minus 60, right? So in this is what? This is 0 degree or 360 degree, right? So lesser than 360 but greater than 270, right? This is what? Tan 300, and that is why in the fourth quadrant I have only cot and sec positive. So if this angle lies somewhere over here, then this will be again a negative value. I hope it is making complete sense to you. But what if I talk about instead of tan there was written cos 30 degree. I am talking about cos 300 degree. Cos 300 degree. So if I am talking about cos 300, then in this case this would have been a positive value. I hope it is making sense, and that is what a reasonable explanation, a reasonable application of why we are learning signs of trigonometric ratios. I hope it is making pretty much sense to you, and that was all about this lecture. Thank you so much.